Hey everybody, and welcome to Green Tips Garden. Today I'm going to be discussing my top 10 tips for October, and I have been practicing that. So tip number one is buy your bulbs and plant them. So have you been thinking about crocuses, daffodils, muscari and alliums? They're all great bulbs for spring flower, and you'll really get a spread over the season if you put a selection of different types of flowers. So you may also want to give some thought to indoor bulbs, things such as amaryllis, but also prepared hyacinth bulbs and some kinds of daffodil bulbs. Indoors, they're prepared in a special way so that they flower around the end of the year, and they really give that lovely colour while it's a bit gloomy outside. Tip number two, protect and propagate tender plants. So do you maybe have one of those bigger gardens where you've got a tree fern or a banana plant? With the tree fern, you may get away, if you're in a particularly mild area, just packing the crown with straw and folding the fronds in on themselves and then covering that with a plastic cap. But it may also be that you're in a particularly cold area where you'll need to wrap the entire plant with fleece or hessian, and again pack the crown with straw but pull the fronds in on themselves and cover that with hessian too. With banana plant, you want to cut that down to about 2 foot tall, surround it with chicken wire, pack it with straw and cover it with straw at the top, and then cover it again with a plastic cap to keep the rain off. Don't surround the entire thing with plastic. It may seem like you're giving it extra protection, but in fact you'll cause it to sweat, and then it may cause rot to set in and you'll lose your specimen. Also some other plants like penstemons, salvias, lemon verbenas and pelargoniums. If you're in a mild area, they may get through the winter no problem, or you may be able to just bring those plants inside if you've got a conservatory or a greenhouse. But why not as well also experiment with taking some cuttings, grow these on over the winter, and then in the spring you've got specimens raring to go. Tip number three, transplant deciduous shrubs and divide perennials. So maybe over the season you've realised that there's an area that's particularly crowded, or there's a shrub in a location that you don't like. Now's the time to give thought to moving them, dividing them. Now with the herbaceous perennials you can actually see where they are before they die back over winter, so it's good to lift them and divide them now. And then with deciduous shrubs, now's a good time because they're going into dormancy, so you're reducing the shock. You're not trying to cut back the roots when you're lifting it and expecting the plant still to maintain all of its leaf structure. Tip number four, cut back things like shrub roses and buddleias. You can probably see that it's a little windy today, even though the weather's fantastic. So what happens as autumn progresses and it gets more windier, some of those larger shrubs are caught by the wind and they're rocked in their positions, and it weakens the root system. So just cut them back. Don't cut them hard back as you would maybe a full prune. For example, the buddleia relies on that woody growth as an energy reserve, but cut them back by about half now, and that really protects them from being grabbed by the wind and shaken. Also, fruited blackberry canes, you want to cut those back now as well to leave the growth that was made this year, which will fruit next year. Tip number five, October is a great time to start emptying out your pots and clearing things away. That doesn't mean putting the garden to bed, but it just means getting on top of all those ad hoc jobs that you've got in the garden, putting stuff on the compost heap, but then you've got all your pots nice and ready for the spring. And then also it's an opportunity to plant something up for the winter, so with polyanthus or pansies, something that's going to give you winter colour. Tip number six, grease band apple, pear, cherry and plum trees. This is because of a problem called the crawling female winter moth. What it does is between November and April it crawls out of the soil up the stem or trunk of your tree, lays eggs, and then those eggs hatch around bud burst time and then the caterpillars will eat your leaves and flower buds. Obviously this will impact on your fruit and the health of the tree. So use that grease band, and I'm going to put a link in the text box below if you want to find out what that is. Tip number 7, order bare root fruit trees, deciduous bushes and roses. This is good for a number of reasons. Bare root plants are cheaper because the supplier doesn't have to give you or pay for the postage of the pot and the soil. There's also a wider range at times because they're bare root and they can go easily in the post. And also an added benefit is that when you put them in the ground, because they're dormant, it allows the roots to start establishing themselves, ready to support the growth in the spring. So now is a fantastic time. Cheaper plants, healthier plants, bare root fruit trees, deciduous bushes and roses. And again, I'm going to put a link below for those suppliers that are some of my favorites. Tip number 8. So annual sweet peas for early flowers next year. Now, sweet peas are annuals, as I've already said, but you can buy these special root trainer pots which plant the seeds in, allows the roots to grow down deep because they like a deep root run. And then what you need is somewhere that is bright, frost-free until April. That way the plants get away and they flower a lot earlier than they would if you sowed them in the spring. So what you do is you allow them to grow on in that bright, frost-free area. When they get to about 10 centimeters tall, you just pinch them out. If they don't have enough light, they'll get leggy and they won't be very healthy specimens. Tip number 9. You can probably see that today is a sunny day. It's really great, even though it's October. And it's a really nice time to get out, start collecting autumn leaves in plastic sacks. What you do, make sure they're fairly moist. This is for leaf mold. I'm not talking about tidying up the park. This is for leaf mold. You put them in a plastic bag, tie them up, rotate them every month, make sure they're moist, not wet but moist, and then within 6 to 12 months you'll have leaf mold, which is great to use on the garden. Also, benefit, sunny weather, you get out to top up the vitamin D and have a nice time together as a family while you still can, while the weather's still good. Finally, tip number 10 is an easy one. If you have a warm, sunny, well-drained spot, why not consider growing garlic? Now, not the garlic that you get from the supermarket, because that can't be guaranteed virus-free. You may end up introducing something to your garden that will cause problems later on, even if not for that particular crop. So get your garlic cloves from a certified supplier. Plant those in that warm, sunny, well-drained area, and by later on next year you'll have fresh garlic. It's fantastic. Now, if you have a heavy clay soil or a wet soil over the winter, you may want to plant your garlic in pots, which then you can plant out in the spring, and that means that you don't have the problem of them rotting off. So I hope you've enjoyed today's top 10 tips for October from Green Tips Gardening. If you've liked this video, please click the like button, and if you'd like to subscribe, please click subscribe and even hit the bell if you'd like to be updated when I post my next video. So, thanks for listening.